It's Friday, April 25th, 1975. Peter Reimers and two of his mates, Doug Goldner and Bob Kirby, set off on a weekend of hunting and fishing in the Mission River area, about 30 miles east of the town of Weipa, Queensland. It's a fairly routine trip for the group. The three head into the bush as often as possible to haul in Barramundi and Mangrove Jack and to hunt the feral pigs in the area. They arrive at their regular camping spot early, and Doug and Bob quickly launch the tinny to head out to their favorite fishing hole. Peter decides he's going to take the Land Rover to a spot he frequents for hog hunting. He tells his friends to save him some jack, and he heads off into the bush. Peter is a well-experienced bushman, and he knows this area well. He's hunted here for years, and has taken many hogs from this very spot. He parks his SUV, and he heads straight for a well-beaten cattle trail that hugs the bank of a shallow freshwater creek. He treks into the swampy bush a couple of kilometers, where he posts up at the base of a tea tree, something he's done many times before. It's here that he'll sit and wait for his quarry. Meanwhile, in a deep, grassy hole just yards away, another hunter has taken up residence. It too has been patiently waiting to ambush its quarry. The battered old hunter has been here before as well, and has studied its prey for some time, watching its every move, learning its behaviors and its patterns over the past weeks. But its interest isn't in feral hogs. Its sights are set on Peter, who's now sitting dangerously close to the creek bank. The hunter is being hunted. Peter sits at the base of the tree for several hours, but he hasn't seen a thing. He thinks to himself how strange it is that he hasn't seen any game in a spot that's brought him so much success in the past. In fact, he hasn't heard any wildlife as he normally would. The area actually seems devoid of life. Perhaps the wildlife's natural senses make them aware of what Peter is blind to, the danger that lurks near the creek bend. As the sun gets high in the sky, the day heats up, and Peter starts to sweat. The temperature is pushing 90 degrees, and the thick, sultry air in the swampy bush makes it tough to breathe. Peter stands up from his perch, and is just the cue the stoic predator has been waiting for. In anticipation of what it instinctively knows Peter is about to do, it slowly, stealthily moves into position near the creek bank. Though the beast nearly tips the scale at over a ton, it manages to move its hulking mass through the knee-deep water without so much as a ripple. It finds its mark with pinpoint precision, and it stops, waiting to detect the slightest vibration at the water's edge. Peter peels off his sticky shirt. He lays it on the ground. He takes off his watch so as not to get it wet and places it on his shirt. He then leans his rifle against the base of the tree, and he walks to the edge of the creek. Peter is well aware that he's in croc country. In fact, he's petrified of crocodiles. Being an experienced bushman, he'd never put himself in what he believed were a dangerous position. This is a very shallow creek where he's waded countless times in the past to cool off. He's never so much as seen a slide in the area to suggest there'd be crocodiles in this section of the creek. He's completely comfortable stepping into the calm, shallow water. Peter takes only a few steps into the creek when the water in front of him churns and erupts. He sees a dark mass lunge forward, mouth agape, teeth gleaming. He manages to make it 6 paces in an attempt to get back up the bank to reach for his rifle before he feels the trap-like jaws slam down around his legs. Peter attempts to fight the beast off, but it's no use against the mammoth size and strength of this crocodile. Even with missing one back leg and a considerable portion of its tail, the saurian is able to effortlessly drag the bushman through the shallows and back into the deep, weedy pothole, where it submerges with the man clamped firmly in its grip. The two hunters disappear beneath the creek's surface, and all becomes still and peaceful once again. As the sun starts to hang low in the Australian sky, Doug and Bob return to the camp with the day's catch, expecting to find Peter already settled by the campfire, a beer in hand, waiting for his fish dinner. Instead, they find that neither Peter or the Land Rover are back yet. Knowing it's too late for Peter to still be hunting, the two head down to the area where they know he'll have gone. See if maybe he'd had a successful hunt and needed a hand hauling the hog out of the bush. They find the Land Rover parked at the head of the cattle trail, as expected, but no sign of their friend. They call out, but they hear no answer. He's hunted here so many times, there's no way he's gotten lost in there, they thought. They decide to fire a few shots into the air. If Peter is within earshot of the gunfire, he'd surely fire a shot in response to let his friends know that he was okay. But no shot ever comes. The men decide not to worry too much yet. Maybe Peter has just hiked in further than usual, and he'll return to camp during the night. But the next morning, when the men awaken, there's still no Peter. At this point, the two know that something's gone terribly wrong, and they head back to the spot where the Land Rover is parked. They begin down the trail in search of their friend. They head down along the creek bank for a few kilometers without any sign of Peter. They then decide to backtrack and follow the creek in the opposite direction. Soon they come to a bend in the creek where they spot their friend's rifle standing against a tea tree. As they get closer, they can see that Peter's shirt and his watch are set neatly on the ground underneath the tree. But there's still no sign of Peter. They call out. No answer. Then Doug sees something that sends chills down his spine. There's a red puddle on the creek bank that appears to be blood. The men head down to investigate the shoreline. There, they find Peter's boot prints leading down into the creek. They find more boot prints, 6 in total, spaced far apart as if Peter is running from something. And at the end of that trail, they find a churned up, red-tinged, muddy mess where it appears that there's been some kind of struggle. Then, within that chaotic scene, they see a single, perfectly preserved print that doesn't belong to Peter. It's the unmistakable mark of a saltwater crocodile, and a massive one at that. Doug and Bob run out of the bush. They jump into their vehicle and they speed back to Weipa, where they inform the local authorities of what's happened. By late afternoon, police are on the scene to investigate and hopefully locate Reimers. They photograph the clothes and the rifle under the tree, but find no sign of Peter's body. It isn't until the next morning that they're able to raise a larger search team, enlisting the help of local Aboriginal trackers to conduct a more thorough sweep of the area. Almost immediately upon arriving back at the scene, Doug spots a leg floating in the creek close to the bank. He reaches in and retrieves it. It was this moment that the men's worst fear was confirmed. Peter had indeed fallen prey to the top end's most formidable predator. A moment later, the police search team calls out that they've located another leg just downstream. Just then, Bob noticed one of Reimers' shoes snagged on a low-hanging tree branch just at the edge of the creek. And there, just below it, is the massive head of a saltwater crocodile studying the group intently. When it notices it's been spotted, it lets out a loud snort and submerges under the milky creek water. Bob and Doug are so close to where the animal lay in wait that they smell the putrid odor from the croc's deep exhale. Along with the search team is an explosives expert from the bauxite mines back in town. He detonates 2 waterproof charges right in the area where the croc submerged. When the beast doesn't surface, the group blocks off its only escape routes and launches a tinny, dragging the bottom in search of the crocodile's body. After more than an hour of searching, the croc succumbs to its wounds from the blasts and is finally hauled up to the surface. It's a true giant, measuring in at over 16 feet, but because it's missing a substantial portion of its tail, would probably come closer to 19 feet. It's an old croc, and it's obviously weathered many territorial battles. It's missing many teeth as well as its back right leg. The tinny can't support the weight of the beast, and so the team have to maneuver a 4-wheel drive back to the spot so that they can tow the animal onto the bank. When the croc is opened up by police, they aren't surprised to find what remains of Peter Reimers inside, mostly intact. It's a horrible fate to befall any man, and a puzzle as to how it could happen to such an avid and accomplished bushman, especially one as croc savvy as Reimers. For some unknown reason, Peter let his guard down, and in doing so, he paid a gruesome price.